In this second video, part 2 of the Excel plots project videos, we're going to take a look at the second chart that we're going to be constructing in Ogive. And it says we're going to use the data set protein and fast food and breaking it down into 6 classes. Also, the following elements must be present: heading, horizontal axis title, vertical axis title, and data labels. You'll see why the data label matters in this one particularly. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. The protein and fast food data is right here. Each of these values represents the amount of protein in grams for a variety of fast food sandwiches. So every sandwich, they took a look how much protein is in it and recorded it. It looks like there's 40 sandwiches here. So what I've done is I've taken and I've put all that data into Excel in a single column. And you can also tell that I've already done a sort on it. I also already worked through, since we took a look at how to do this in the first video, I worked through setting up the class limits. I even went through and I figured out the frequencies of each of those class limits. However, an ogive is not frequencies, it's cumulative frequencies. So as a review of that, I've set up my cumulative frequencies here. Remember, what we do is we ask ourselves the question first, how much is less than the lower boundary on the first class? Now we know that the boundaries are halfway in between upper and lower, so the boundary below 12 is going to be 11.5. So how many values in our data are less than 11.5? 0. We do that on purpose so that our cumulative frequency chart, the ogive, starts at 0. You then take a look at the top of the first class. Top of the first class is 19, so the boundary is 19.5. So we're going to ask ourselves how many values are less than 19.5. Well, that's our 7 right here. So notice I put in the 7 right here. Great. I keep doing that now for all the upper boundaries. So notice the upper boundary here is 27. The upper limit here is 27. So my upper boundary is 27.5. So how many data points are less than 27.5? Well, it's the original 7 plus these extra 17, which gets me to my 24. I keep going through that pattern and I get the cumulative frequencies for all of the upper boundaries until the very top end right here. And that top cumulative frequency should equal the number of data points that I have, and it does. It equals 40. So now how do I take and I turn this into a chart? Well, what we're going to do is notice that I took and I rewrote these just as values rather than less than 11.5, less than 19.5, and the remaining of those, and I just wrote them as the value. Okay. Now I wrote the cumulative frequencies here. I'm going to highlight both of these columns. I'm going to come up here and click Insert, and we don't want to do a line chart. A line chart is much different than over here. It's called a scatter plot. Okay. I want to select scatter plot, and I want to select the option where it has markers at each data point and connects the markers with straight lines. So I'm going to select that, and it generates my cumulative frequency chart, my ogive. Now we need to add the elements to this. So remember, to add the elements you need to your chart, you just double click anywhere in the chart area, and the chart format box over here on the right hand side opens up. First thing we want to take a look at is the chart title. So this is going to be grams of protein in various sandwiches. I'm going to go back here just to make sure. Variety of fast food. Let's label that a little bit more in depth. Protein in various fast food sandwiches. Very good. Okay, so grams of protein in various fast food sandwiches. Wonderful. So we've got our chart title. I like to make it a little bit bigger. Let's go up to 18, make it bold, and let's add some color to it. I'll make it this orangey color. Great. Okay, wonderful. Chart title is done, so I'm going to close that. Legend, that's this series down here. That's only important if you have multiple sets of data. So I'm going to turn the legend off. Next, horizontal axis. I'm going to expand that, and we're going to scroll down here to take a look at some of the stuff down at the bottom. The main thing in here is I want to turn on my axis title. So turning on the axis title, I can now edit my axis title. This is the horizontal axis. So that horizontal axis represents grams of protein. Let's increase that, make it bold. Let's use that same color so that we match. Great. So we have our horizontal axis title taken care of. Now my vertical axis title. I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to turn on the axis title, which then opens up opportunities to edit that. And I'm going to title this cumulative frequency. There we go. Cumulative frequency. And again, let's make that a little bit bigger, bold it, and turn it into that same color. Wonderful. So we have grams of protein for various fast food sandwiches, cumulative frequency. Now you'll notice a couple other things really interestingly enough though, and it would have been really nice, and you can do this by hand, that we have tick marks along our horizontal axis at all of the values of the actual data points. That we don't. So it's hard to tell exactly where that data point is. Is this 19, 19.5, what, 19.7? What is it? So why don't we go ahead and add our data labels? Okay, so I'm going to close down my vertical axis and I'm going to open up series 1, which is my data on this chart. Now there's a whole bunch of different things we can do here. The one that we just talked about was data labels. So I'm going to turn on data labels, and you'll notice it automatically puts on the vertical axis label 0, 7, 24, 34, 38, 39, and 40. But what I also want to do is I want to turn on the horizontal axis label of that point. I want to know where that point is along the horizontal axis. That is accomplished by clicking on category name. So I'm going to click on category name, and now you'll notice that each of these data points is listed with its vertical and horizontal points. So this is 11.50, 19.57. So it tells you the location of those markers. Now I'm going to open up my marker option really quick. The fill, I'm going to switch to that color that we've been using. Outline, let's switch to that color that we've been using as well. Great. And what we can also do is change the marker style. Okay. We're also going to change the color of that line. So underneath series 1, the outline, let's make it match all the color that we've been using. Feel free to use any color you want. Marker style, we can go automatic, we can have none, we can have a square, we can have a triangle, it can be an X, a bunch of different options. You can even change your marker size. Let's go up to a size 10 and see what happens. Okay, it makes it bigger. If I go back to automatic, so it goes to the circles, you'll notice that the circles are bigger. Okay, nope, it went back to a 5 because I changed that. So if I go to a 10, the circles are going to get bigger. Okay, play around, adjust, make the chart look clean and orderly. Okay, that's the key. I'm going to bump it back down to a 6, and we're going to change the fill to that color and the outline to that color as well, that orange color that we're using for this. Now, what do I have? Oh, last thing really quick, I also can change the location of where those data labels are. So label position right here, right now it says to the right. It actually, because of how it levels out, might make a little more sense to put them to the left. You can see the data values a little bit bigger. You can also increase the font of those so that they're a little more readable as well. Great. So there we go. We've got our chart title, horizontal and vertical axis labeled. We've got the data labels on our chart. We've got a really nice Ogive, a cumulative frequency chart illustrating the grams of protein in various fast food sandwiches.